All right, here we are. Smackdown review. What is today? October 13th, 2023. I've been thinking about doing this kind of thing for a while and kind of set up some stuff, but it was really the people on Twitter who kind of made me do it today. I said jokingly, if I got 100 likes on this tweet, I would start tonight. So as you see, the graphics aren't 100% ready. Like there's nothing over there. There should be like a blinking thing or down there. There should be like a subscribe or whatever. But today we're going to talk about SmackDown. So what does Matt watch? My name's Matt, and I watch TV and I watch stuff and a lot of wrestling. So mostly wrestling, but probably some other stuff here and there. Don't know what this is going to take, but as soon as I saw MattWatch.com was available, I had to do it. Like Matt, M-A-T-T, watch, like MattWatch, but you get it. So anyway, SmackDown. It is the season premiere of SmackDown. And that brings kind of some bad memories to those of us who remember the first premiere over on Fox, where, the Brock Lesnar just destroyed Kofi Kingston, and also how things were going along and they had, other MMA guys come in and want to fight Lesnar, and then no one knew really what to make of the Firefly Funhouse. It was a strange night, but it launched a very successful era of WWE TV, and today kind of showed why. And how else are you going to start the show? You start the show off with John Cena. John Cena coming out, really kind of working those last days before the strike is over, giving the rubs left and right as he can, and then Roman Reigns comes out. Now, it was kind of cool and interesting, really, if you think about it, to see that when Roman came out, it was like, okay, now here's the star of the show, because Roman had been gone for a few weeks. But like Cena's a legend, but to me, it was the first time I ever saw Roman Reigns come off stronger on TV, as a bigger star on TV, as a bigger deal on TV than John Cena. And it was kind of cool to see because if you've been watching Roman as long as I have, this journey he's been on to this point where he's at now, where he can just kind of stand there and be Roman and evoke all those kind of characteristics that make him a star just unconsciously. He just does it now. He's not trying. He just is that guy. So, of course, Cena comes out. He says he acknowledges Roman Reigns. And Reigns, of course, is all, upset Cena's there because how dare anybody be in the ring with the great Roman Reigns. And he said, well, I don't want a match, but there's somebody else who wants a match. And LA Knight's music hits. LA Knight, he is over, as they say. By the way, I always feel uncomfortable using wrestling terms. So, I always kind of budget it. I always go, as they say, over. And the reason is, I guess it's from having friends in the wrestling business. Excuse me, having friends in the wrestling business, because, when non wrestlers tend to use those terms in front of wrestlers, there's a bit of eye rolling that goes on. But one could say, yes, LA Knight is over. Now, LA Knight, I haven't talked to you guys since LA Knight's been a thing, but LA Knight is, I don't get it. I really don't understand it. And it's like one of these things like Orange Cassidy, right? People don't get Orange Cassidy. And I'm like, hey, look how popular he is. I like him personally. I get it. But look how popular he is. So you can't really argue with it. So now I'm on the other side where I think a lot of LA Knight stuff I've seen before. Maybe I've seen done better. It's missing me. It's missing me. But now I have to be the guy to go, well, look how popular it is. So the problem then becomes me. The problem becomes me, the watcher, saying, okay, it's something I'm missing. I want to like it. I'm not sure what it is, but the fans sure love it. And it looks like certainly they are setting up for Reigns versus LA Knight, which is the smart thing to do, being that, LA Knight is so popular right now. In comes the multi-layered, complex, one might say shoddily written character of Jimmy Uso, who comes to the ring and, attack Knight from behind. Just in the middle of the segment, Reigns doesn't know what to think about it. And now, I guess if you recall, like Reigns was fighting Jey Uso, right? And Jimmy helped Reigns win, even though he had just turned on him. And then he came back, and now he's trying to ingratiate himself into the bloodline. He's done a lot of stuff recently, since Reigns has been gone, to show, hey, I'm still that guy. I'm still the bloodline guy. I'm still on your side. And he's saying that, what I did before was to protect the long-term future of this family, of this bloodline family. Y'all might be beefing now, but because I did this, if I allowed Jay to beat Roman, then the family would be permanently damaged. So I guess that is what they're going. And Jimmy's still with the bloodline, but still loves Jay. Um, excuse me. Hard to walk that line, but and I was one of the guys that said that the bloodline has jumped the shark, and I kind of think it did a little bit. I still kind of think it did, but I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to the bloodline people because they've done such a good job, and now with Triple H back in charge of creative, it might get back on track. So now we go to, what? I'm doing this in one take, so I'm gonna take a drink of water real quick. Ah, that's great TV, folks. I'm drinking water a lot. I've dropped a few pounds on this diet, and it's amazing how quickly weight can come off when you say goodbye to every single food that you love. It's pretty amazing. And any drink that you love. So I'm drinking water. Pretty Deadly comes up, of course. Elton, I believe it's Elton, who was injured, and now they've been making a big deal about it. They've been playing it up, much like the Roderick Strong thing in AEW. Pretty Deadly is a good tag team. They are good wrestlers. They are young. They have a good look. They have a good persona. Excuse me. And they follow this great line tradition, this kind of seamy, non-cool WWE tradition of, hey, these guys are kind of gay, but they're not really gay. Like it's a WWE trope. I'm not sure what you call it, and I'm not sure it's good or appropriate, but they're very good. These two guys, Elton and Kit, took on the Brawling Brutes, Ridge, Ridge Holland and Butch. My God, what am I saying? And it was a pretty good match, which really just to get across the character of Pretty Deadly. They're coming back. They're comedy characters, but they're to be taken seriously in the ring. We go backstage for Carlito being interviewed by Kayla Braxton. Man, how cool is it? Carlito's back. He's really not just kept himself in shape, but he's bigger and in better shape than ever. It seems to me, from looking on the outside, he's been waiting for this opportunity for a long time to come back to WWE, and I am happy to see it personally. And he's associated with the LWO. Bobby Lashley comes out and talks to Carlito in a backstage segment, and those were two guys who were on the roster together many years ago, and here they are again, both looking incredible, and both having some ability to make an impact in WWE booking this many years later. This was set off a big brouhaha backstage where the LWO and the Street Profits got into it after the Street Profits attacked Carlito from behind with a chair. In the midst of all that, Bailey interrupted things, and Adam Pearce was like, "What's going on?" And Zelina and Bailey got into it. It was kind of a like a only in wrestling segment, and it's like, all right, well, you two, if you want to fight, just get to the ring. It was one of those moments, I think, that as a fan, you watch wrestling, but then you think, someone like me who's fascinated by the wrestling industry. I loved wrestling my whole life, and I like watching it. I enjoy watching it. I'm interested by it, but I'm fascinated by wrestling as an industry. And so I always try to think of what it's like if somebody's watching wrestling for the first time and they're trying to get into it. They're seeing this opening segment and they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then they're seeing a match being made like this, and it's like one of these things that to me might take you out. If you were a new fan. As an old fan, it's just boilerplate. You're like, seen it before. Makes sense to me. But anyway, that's how the match was made. Roman Reigns and the Bloodline were shown like if there were two other random wrestlers back there just annoying Adam Pearce, we'd be like, all right, you two, okay, Great Khali and, Sasha Banks, get in the ring. Like, it doesn't make any sense if you're not used to wrestling. And I think the appeal of wrestling is to draw people in who aren't used to wrestling. So now we have Roman Reigns and the Bloodline shown backstage. By the way, WWE is probably better than ever at just going bing, bang, boom, segment to segment to segment. Everything just flows like I'm sure when they look at the format after the show's done, they're high fiving each other because it is smooth. I mean, just putting up a YouTube video is difficult for me, doing the layouts and changing the name of the channel and all this stuff for MattWatch.com. And but imagining doing a format like that, it's pretty crazy. Jimmy and Reigns, Jimmy Uso and Reigns were together, and Jimmy Uso said I told Reigns, I called audible. That's what I'm here for, And then Reigns was like, what really bugs me, Jimmy, is your brother with the tag team titles. It's a slap in the face, And he's also got it with Cody. That's even worse. And he asked, can you handle that? And then Jimmy said the yeet thing, which got over on social media because Cody and Jay were having a good time. If you haven't seen that press conference, you should watch it 10 times because it's hilarious. And, he said yeet. Jimmy said yeet. Roman's like, man, I ain't no comedy figure, buddy. I don't like it. And they get a fist bump. So then we had Bayley versus Vega. It was an okay match. Bayley is great. And it was the first time, I think, watching it that I was thinking, I think it might be time pretty soon for Bayley to go back to Bayley, to the hugger, to the original character. I think fans would embrace that in the right situation. Maybe with this damage control thing, maybe damage control, it seems like they're teasing that Bayley's interference might backfire at some point. And when it does, maybe the damage control overreacts and maybe Bayley disappears for a bit and comes back with the entire, with the blow up dudes, and smiling and hugging. It was the first time I really thought that. The Triple H segment here, excuse me. See, normally I record a tape because I'm not really like the one shot guy. I'm not the one take guy because I have no background in TV or radio, public speaking, really anything I've ever done. So if I cough a little bit, I'm sorry. I usually edit those out. Or if I'm with somebody else, see, podcasts are so much better with two people because I just mute myself and then I can just cough or drink or whatever I need to do. It's a high responsibility, and I'm not sure I'm interesting enough to pull it off, or interested, but I'm giving this a shot, and I hope you guys like it. If you aren't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I'm Matt Kuhn. If you don't know who I am, I'm not important at all, but I have hosted podcasts with Dax Harwood. You want to go down the list? I'll go on the list here. Dax Harwood, right? William Regal. I did a comedy podcast with one of my best friends, Corey Ryan Forrester, when I'd sworn off wrestling altogether. Why it ended with Robbie E., who quit that show to go become Robert Stone in NXT. Previous to that, I did a podcast with Vince Russo, gave that a shot for a few months. I have worked with Medusa, with Dutch Mantel, with Terry Runnels, Johnny Fairplay, and probably somebody I forgot. And then I've done music in wrestling. Up until recently, you could have heard my theme on What Happened When with Tony Schiavone. The first theme I ever made was for Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard. You might have heard my music on The Arn Show. My song, man, I'm just bragging now. But anyway, my theme songs for Steve Macklin and Deanna Peraza were still used on Impact. Grateful to them. So I do music too. But, if you don't know who I am, if you're just clicking on the Smackdown thing, I guess I'm just a hanger-on in the wrestling business with no talent at all, some ability, and still just learning how to do this. So Triple H in the ring. Adam Pearce was already in the ring when Triple H got in the ring, and the crowd was into it. And the crowd is great. We're going to do a video on what AEW needs to do to get to this level, and I think an interesting subject is what different choices could have been made by AEW from their beginnings, or even the last year or last 2 years, to get to where WWE is now, where 2019 era WWE, 2018, 2019, it was so bad, and what choices AEW could have made to get to the level WWE is right now, where everything's hitting hard, everything's good. People are happy to see Adam Pearce. It's fantastic. Hunter says, hey, Adam Pearce, you've done a great job. And people clap for him. They see the work. And it's interesting to think Adam Pearce was just like a random agent that was on screen randomly, you know. And I remember he was slapping that ambulance when someone would be carried away. And he was like, get it out of here, get out of here. And I want to say that's the moment that they looked at him and they said, hey, maybe he should be on TV more, because it seemed kind of like an improv line. In any case, Hunter said, hey, man, it's been 3 years. You've done a good job. You're getting promoted to general manager of Raw. And then starts to introduce the SmackDown general manager. And, you know, it would have been really cool if I wasn't spoiled by Sean Ross Sapp. Sean Ross Sapp spoils everything. He gets every scoop. Of course, I could just like not look at Twitter or not follow his account or not read the news or not go past where he says spoiler on his Patreon site, Fightful Select. So I'm not really complaining, but it's interesting. The effects of knowing that one ahead of time definitely tempered down my reaction, I believe, because I think Aldis coming in as a general manager is a great move and would have kind of, you know, popped me a little bit, as they say. But before he could introduce Aldis, Dirty Dom walked out. Dirty Dom started talking. He's all mad about not having the tag titles. He said, how are other people getting a shot before we're getting a shot? Judgment Day is going to fight for the tag titles against Jay and Cody on Monday Night Raw. And so anyway, they get him to stop talking. And all of a sudden they introduced Aldis. And Aldis, you know, he got a reaction. You know, I don't think he got as big a reaction as you thought he would get. But that doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter the star reaction he gets. He's in there to do a job. And as he did more and more in that ring, I think Aldis showed he belonged big time. And I can't wait to see him wrestle, because he's going to wrestle. Like, they didn't bring him in just to, like, do that. You know, there's going to be some kind of angle, some kind of thing where, you know, some guy gets out of line and, excuse me, Aldis goes, hey, I fight, by the way. I'm a wrestler, you know. So anyway, you know, Aldis and Dom go back and forth a little bit. And he said, well, I do have an announcement to make. We have a new member of SmackDown because of the Jey Uso trade. So that's how you know Triple H is doing creative, because this is the kind of thing that Vince would have just forgotten about. Jey was traded. Who cares? It happened a month ago, pal. Like, we don't give a crap. But they wanted to complete this. They wanted to make it a whole thing. And also, you know, Kevin Owens going to SmackDown shakes things up a bit on Raw, shakes things up a bit on SmackDown. I think Sammy and Kevin are great together, but I think they are more valuable separately. And I think maybe even on separate brands. And it's one of these things, like most things in life, the less you see it, the better it is. So the less you see Sammy and Kevin, the better and more impactful it will be. And I like Kevin Owens to SmackDown. My call was Sammy was going to SmackDown. I think I had the right idea, but the wrong guy. Kevin Owens was introduced. Huge applause from the crowd. He entered the ring. And of course, Dominic's in there. Dominic is the heel du jour. So he gets the stunner. And then the show, and then, you know, everybody's happy. And the show cut backstage where Reigns was shaking his head at the addition of Owens, another enemy to disrespect. Me, I guess is what he's thinking. Reigns said, Jay, Cody, and Kevin are running around on this show. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Reigns was mad at Jimmy Uso for drinking water on Reigns' couch. You can tell I'm reading now, can't you? And Jimmy asked Reigns if he was serious. Roman said he wasn't, but imagine if he was. I see. Jimmy left and took Sikoa with him. There's a Dragon Lee vignette aired. Dragon Lee's great. Will WWE know what to do with Dragon Lee? It seems like with the Dragon Lees of the world, you're masked ethnic superstars, right? There's one of two ways they go with WWE. They either become Rey Mysterio or they become Sin Cara. You know, like they haven't done a great job of, you know, diversifying the placement in the roster of your said masked ethnic wrestlers, luchadors, or Japanese wrestlers. They tend not to think of them as characters. Like, you know, Shinsuke Nakamura, while not masked, was, you know, treated a little differently because he didn't speak English, or they had him speak English, but instead now they've shown if you speak Japanese, you speak your own language, you can even get over. And oh my God, you can actually create a well-rounded character like this. Of course, something us normal people in the normal world know, but in WWE land, they're used to doing things a certain way, and that's no. I guess it is a diss on them. It's like it is like, get with the 20 is it 21st? My God, get with the 21st century. Um, so Dragon Lee is great. I love Dragon Lee. When I saw him, I think I first saw him wrestling like that Long Beach Ring of Honor show when like the Elite were starting to become like a big deal. And I was like, first of all, that's an amazing name, just amazing. And then and then I saw him face Takahashi Hiromu at maybe a Wrestle Kingdom where Hiromu got injured. But I always was impressed with Dragon Lee. And then I was at a Ring of Honor show. I think the last Ring of Honor show before they closed down. Of course, they opened back up. And Dragon Lee, I think, wrestled, but then I'm like 1,000% sure he sat down with his family next to me, even though he didn't have his mask on. Big fan of him. Aldis, he's now backstage, talking backstage to All In, a fellow All In person who was with him, in 2018, Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green was with Piper Niven. She was pitching new tag belts with Italian leather. How great is Chelsea? And this kind of goes to show something I guess I've talked about a little bit. Is I'm biased. Like I'm biased. Sorry. Like I'll be honest about when I'm biased. I'm definitely biased with like Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green. Without Chelsea Green, I may have never done a wrestling theme ever. Chelsea Green gave me my first shot for All In, and I did stuff based on that and her referrals. She referred Deonna Purrazzo to me. So I will never say a bad word about Chelsea Green. I won't think a bad word. So it's not like I'm being dishonest, but I'm trying to be open about that. Again, Charlotte is another one, right? Charlotte, if how can I ever say something bad about someone whose sister that I have a great deal of respect and admiration for, and I know pretty well. So, but anyway, Charlotte, the greatest female wrestler of all time, and walked in the frame, and Chelsea and Piper gone. And Aldis turned his attention to Charlotte, and he referenced what happened at Fastlane. He said, dude, you got messed over. I'm in charge now. It's a new day, right? Which is a great thing. It's kind of setting it, this old thing, like there's a new sheriff in town. All these cheatings and shenanigans are about to end because I am in charge now. The buck stops here. It sets up a lot of possibilities. That's fun. As Charlotte starts to walk away, she comes face to face with Jade Cargill. And I think that's like really, I mean, just what we've wanted to see. Like Jade and Charlotte. Like when Jade was in AEW, I'm thinking I would love to see her wrestle Charlotte. And they're two people, as good as Charlotte is in the ring, personality-wise, she comes off like a star. Jade comes off like a star. They exchanged some pleasantries, and, Charlotte kind of said something crappy on the way out, just to kind of stay true to her character. And then we go back to the ring. Jay and Cody Rhodes made their entrances, and then they had like a long commercial break. And it's one of these things on TV, it works really well. In person, it is awkward as hell, right? Like, so when you're there, Jay and Cody come out and they literally just stand there. They turn the music off and just stand there, like I think maybe knowing Cody probably went out and high-fived some people. But then you literally heard the music come back on after the package was wrapped, and they kind of had to act like that's been going on the whole time. We're supposed to believe they've been in the ring getting warmed up for the past 5 minutes during review packages and commercials and stuff. We have Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Grayson Waller, Austin Theory. These guys are going to be the tag team champs. How do I know? Because this kind of thing has happened every single time you put a tag team like this together. That is what you do. You put these guys together. First of all, it's perfect for them both, right? Because they both need, would benefit from being in a tag team. They both have strengths that will be maximized in a tag team. And they'll both have a chance to kind of show their strengths and show what they can do in this tag team, and also do a lot of character work, which is kind of their strength, the both of them being so disliked. So they'll be the tag team champs. Of course, Jay and Cody, I mean, first appearances, like they're just like this short-term tag team, right? Because it's like another way to keep Cody off the story or whatever. But my goodness, they're really good in the ring together. And that finisher they have, the timing on it, I don't think people talk about that enough. The timing on it is incredible. It's a great tag team move. It's like like the 310 to Yuma move that the Guns do in AEW is, obviously influenced by that Shatter Machine by FTR. And FTR's was definitely influenced by the 3D. But the FTR move is like an evolution of the 3D. But the 310 to Yuma just looks like kind of like a ripoff, like that move with a twist. While Cody and Jay's move seems like an evolution of it. It's really interesting, really good. They add the jump off the ropes. I always think with Cody, because Cody always jumps with like 1 foot, right? That's got to be harder, right? Like, it's one of these things that as a fan you might not appreciate as much, but the wrestlers might be like, man, how does he jump off 1 foot like that? Because when he does a disaster kick and he does everything else, he usually jumps off 1 foot off that ring. I don't know if it's harder or easier. Like, that's not my expertise. If you want to know, the best scale to solo over a G7 altered cord, maybe. If you want to know, the best way to order from DoorDash, that's me. I don't know about jumping off ropes, but it seems to me that would be harder. So I thought maybe Waller and Theory would win, but it's not quite their time. But mark my words, it will be. So they do that finisher that I talked about. And then Jay and Cody start walking in the back, and Jimmy and Sikoa walk through the curtain. Roman Reigns followed them. And Reigns engaged in a stare down with Cody, like they were nose to nose. And I'm so glad the story's not over. Cody Rhodes, I will never be unbiased when it comes to Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is a good dude and a really hard worker and deserves success and deserved that title. Like, not just deserved it because he did the work and he goes through tables like on every damn house show, like 3 days a week, and spends like an hour after every house show just like signing autographs. I've seen it. Not just that, but he's been able to keep this fan response strong all the way since Mania to now. It is maintained. It has had endurance. It has had consistency. It has been a great thing for Cody. Again, I will not be unbiased to Cody Rhodes. I like Cody a lot, and I want him to get what he wants. And I'm pretty sure what he wants in real life is that title, that big title. I think that's what brought him to WWE. And yeah, that's right. Just being on the big stage and getting that particular belt. That stuff about his dad, I believe, is a total reality, as they say, shoot. And it's great to see they haven't got rid of it. And when you do the math and you go, okay, so Cody Roman and LA Knight, Survivor Series, right? So that's really pushing Cody over into WrestleMania territory for that feud if they're going to redo it, if they're going to finish the story. And I love seeing that. The commentary team ran down the fact that next week we get Io Sky. I've mispronounced like very easy, very hard to mispronounce words, versus Charlotte Flair. And we'll also have Santos Escobar versus Montez Ford. Not sure how I feel about Montez and Angelo being, what they're doing. I don't really understand it. I'm not sure it's the greatest casting of them, but we'll talk about another time as we talk about our main event, LA Knight versus Solo Sikoa. I don't know, man. Like with LA Knight, I told you I don't really get it. I'm not trying to crap on the guy, okay? I'm just seeing things in there that don't appeal to me as a wrestling fan. I don't know another way to say it, but I think some of it's, is a lot of stuff I've seen before. A lot of stuff is not necessarily original for me. A lot of stuff doesn't have the, genuineness of it, and some of the stuff just isn't pulled off the way I think it could be. But bro, I'm probably missing something. Like, I'm definitely missing something because I know a lot of people I respect, people I like, who are crazy about the guy. So, and obviously the fans are. So, obviously, I got this itch, sorry, on my nose. So, this is something I would normally cut out, but I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm doing this in one take. I don't think I've ever done anything in one take because, here's a little spoiler, guys, a little behind the scenes action. I suck at this. So I can talk. I like wrestling, not necessarily interesting, but I make mistakes and I like to edit. So, excuse me, I'm going to have some water. And now Solo Sikoa, right? LA Knight versus Solo Sikoa, his opponent. It's very interesting to see how Sikoa is perceived by me and the fans, see how he pulls off everything. And you think about the way that he's been presented. The way he's been presented is exactly the way you should ever present somebody that you want to be in that position. Let's say a Wardlow, right? Wardlow is presented in a way like that pretty well. Pretty much the same, right? The heater, the background enforcer character who would also have matches. Like Big Bubba Rogers was the first one I remember, the Big Boss Man, but Big Bubba Rogers NWA, where he didn't really wrestle. So when he got in the ring, it was a big deal. With Solo Wardlow, they keep wrestling, but with Solo, I think they're not having him break away as quickly as they did with Wardlow. But at the same time, his matches get higher and higher and higher in stature, still though under the umbrella, the protection in narrative and also in reality of the bloodline. So he's always got the bloodline to rely on. But meanwhile, everything he does looks great. His matches have credibility. When someone goes, "Oh, you're facing Solo Sikoa," it's a big deal. And everything, like, I don't think I've seen him like make a misstep in the ring. It's easy to say someone's a natural, right? But he is just skilled. Like, he is like a wrestling savant. I think he might be the younger one, and the youngest, he's got to be, right? Youngest brothers tend to be really talented at things more so than the older brothers. There's this book called The Talent Code that talked about it talked about this study about the fastest runners in the world. They studied wide receivers, running backs, 100-yard dash guys, right? And they found that like 40% of them was like the youngest or second youngest of four more brothers, which I probably got those stats wrong, but you get my point. Things that we think about that are natural, like foot speed. What's more natural than foot speed? It's not natural. It's how we grow up and what we have to adapt to. And the fact that Solo grew up in this household with these older brothers and also every damn member of his family, he is really, really good. Everything he does works great. Never see anything by him ever that has taken me out or has betrayed his character as a character, but also in the ring. So, Knight is a pretty stock wrestler in a lot of ways. What do they call it? Creative wrestler? Very many ways. Some of the stuff he does that are pretty clean is that, the DDT, the kick into the DDT he does, very rock-like, right? His elbow drops, that finisher's cool, though. And that little inverted bulldog thing. And the guys traded punches at the end of the match until Knight got the better of exchange. Knight landed a clothesline and that DDT I talked about, and he stomped a mud hole. So we're seeing, a lot of criticism of like LA Knight being a ripoff of The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not saying that at all from my viewpoint. I think taking things that work is kind of the pathway to success. And then, the match continues. Jimmy Uso appeared and he got in the ring. He's going to interfere, but John Cena was right there, cut him off, and and then Cena gave him the attitude adjustment, and Knight hit that BFT, that um, inverted bulldog, and then after the match, Knight was celebrating, but out of nowhere, Roman Reigns speared him. So it's on now. Reigns smiled at the crowd. Man, Reigns really he has cachet. You know what I'm saying? Like, Reigns is the guy now. He just stands there and he's the guy. And it's really remarkable to see, because it appeared at one time it was not going to be that at all. All of us were like, turn him heel, turn him heel. And man, it certainly has worked. And one day the fans are going to turn him into a good guy again. And then he will be the star that they wanted him to be, 10 years ago, that fan favorite. Reigns stood tall as the show went off the air. Overall, what did I think? Well, what did you guys think? You can leave it in the comments. Of course, subscribe over here at MattWatch.com, and I'm going to try and do this as often as I can. You don't know how many times I've watched a wrestling show in the last couple months and looked over at this computer and been like, why don't I just talk about it? Like, I'll at least get like 100 people to listen or 100 people to watch. And the 100 people that watch, guys, I thank you so much. I'm a fan just like you. I'm someone who is lucky enough and, quite frankly, worked really, really hard to get involved in the wrestling that I did get into. And as far as a periphery, as the most peripheral of associations with the wrestling business as possible, but still just a fan, still someone just in awe of the entire thing, So thank you for joining me on this. Tell your friends about it. Whatever it does to get this thing going. I'd love for a lot of people to start listening. I think we're going to look back maybe one day at this first show and be like, wow, it really started something. And you guys are at the very beginning of it. So, recap, SmackDown was great. Raw is kicking on all cylinders. Raw would be killing right now if WWE is hitting on all cylinders, and Raw would be killing right now if they had a 2-hour show. But that 3-hour show just makes it so hard to watch, so hard to enjoy, so hard to make it fun. But this 2-hour SmackDown flew by. Everybody was presented great. We had the elevation of younger wrestlers, placed in great positions, like Pretty Deadly and Grayson Waller and Austin Theory and Dragon Lee. And I mean, it's really, and then, of course, Jade Cargill coming in. And then everything was in a very cohesive manner. Everything except maybe the Jimmy Uso thing, but they're kind of making sense of that too. Everything's kind of making sense. So those people out there who say that I always crap on WWE, people very, very binary, right? People are very binary in their thinking. They're like, you hate this and you like this. No, I enjoyed the show. It was enjoyable. I give SmackDown a 7.5, maybe an 8. And that's a strong score, by the way. There's no 11s in my scale. Okay, again, thank you guys for joining me. This is the first episode of MattWatch covering SmackDown from Friday, October 13th. And I thank you, and I hope you join me again. Goodbye, wrestling friends.